Oh, okay.
Doing so good. Doing so good. All right.
Quality.
All right, guys. We are not a media crew.
No.
Welcome back to just another one, too.
Cut.
Welcome back. No. We roll. One take. Unless we forget to throw the mic on. Welcome back to Endeavor, guys. So we're going to talk about a little bit of a hand fighting drill. So hand fighting is something we incorporate into a lot of stuff. We picked this up from the FTF guys down in Charlotte. The basic kind of idea behind hand fighting is we start with our heads together. The reason being, as we get into this, we get dynamic and excited. The heads tend to move, and we don't want to bash them together. So we get our heads together to start. I start by grabbing one of his wrists. He starts by grabbing one of mine. And then what we do is we just come up with an objective. So the first objective we'll play around with is I want two-hand wrist control. So I'm getting two hands on his one wrist. He wants two-hand wrist control, so he's trying to get two hands on my one wrist, right? And we're fighting back and forth for that control, right? And just learning how to get into the positions we want. The kicker that we want is we want to imagine like there's a box from our shoulders to our hips, and our hands can't leave that box. So when we get into this, if he gets two hands on, I can't do a lot of the traditional like peel and pull my hands out. That's not going to be the objective. Instead of being defensive, I'm always going to be offensive. So instead of trying to rip my hand out or do a traditional wrist release, maybe I'm rolling the wrist up to get that two-hand wrist control. Or maybe from here, I'm plucking and ripping that hand out so that I can get two-hand wrist control. So I'm being offensive. So we just kind of get into this habit, this little game, where we're going kind of back and forth. I'm trying to maintain control. He's trying to maintain control. We're working offensively the whole entire time and just learning to kind of manipulate the positions we get into. Then we get a little more dynamic with it, and we just implement a knife. This is a fake knife, it's a trainer, right? We bolted it down. This is always my test for a trainer, so hopefully it's a trainer. As we go into it, and I have a knife and he doesn't, right? So now the stakes are a little bit higher. And this game that we're gonna get playing into works on both ends. So if for whatever reason I needed to deploy a knife and I wanted to get into a lethal force situation and I had to, and I deployed my knife, well now if he's trying to stop me from utilizing it, this is gonna teach me how to get out of it. For his end of things, if we're in a knife situation, he's now learning to at least get some type of grip and control, right? So he's learning to fight inside those kind of gray areas. So we do our hand fighting from this position, right? I'm trying to get my hand free and released, and essentially the game that we play is, I'm just trying to take the front of the knife and touch it to his stomach. I'm not stabbing, I'm just literally just trying to touch him with it, right? So as we go through, we're going in, I can break, release here, try to hit here, and he's constantly trying to make sure that I can't get that blade where I want to get that blade, which is non-stop the whole entire way, right? So we're using these same exact components to work on some of those gray areas. Knife defenses don't generally look like, big block and counter, grab on, do amazing takeaway and throw them on the ground. Sometimes shit happens. So you get in this struggle over controlling the knife and the blade. It's really nice to have this dexterity and this feeling when you get into it. So a fun little way to kind of add on to it. And again, he can have an objective where his goal is to get to a 2-on-1, right? Or an actual 2-on-1, a Russian arm to the outside. So as we're going, I'm trying to stab him, and what he's trying to do is establish that outside control, get the blade, and again, put himself in a better position. You can play with it and add different drills to it as much as you want, but the idea is to get in there and learn that dexterity, and the most important part is, as we are doing this, he doesn't get in the habit of pulling his hands out of the fight. Because if he pulls his hand out of the fight, then I get a free space to kind of get in there, and he's putting himself in a bad spot. So you're being offensive, right? So fun little game you guys can play. You can do it with rubber trainers. Like I said, it's still a trainer. But good stuff to get in there on both sides of things, especially if you're somebody who carries a knife. You want to be on both ends of that spectrum and understand how that works. Cool? See you guys next time.